What's up, everybody? Thralls Metal here once again. I'm Necrotic Nick, and I have an album review for you. So one that I definitely had on my radar for this week, the 29th of July, was a pretty underground one, but I've become a pretty big fan of this band. So we're going to dive into the underground and go over the latest offering from Triumvir Foul, Onslaught to Seraphim. This again comes on the 29th of July on Vrasu Bratlat Records. I don't know. I tried saying that word out loud several times, and I'm reasonably sure some furniture started floating, so I'm going to leave that one alone until I have to say it again. Hopefully nothing happens. This band formed in 2014 in Portland, Oregon. This is their third full-length overall. They do have one EP and a demo. I actually own their first two full-lengths, the self-titled and Spiritual Bloodshed, which are both pretty fucking awesome. And even their last EP, Urine of Abomination, which that's a fun title. Now this is a two-man studio band, and one of the members, the frontman, bassist, guitarist, vocalist, Rory Flay, is actually the head of the record label Vrasu Bratlat. I'm not going to say that again. I think I heard something. But this also features Max Bowman from Mortiferum or Mortiferum. Still not entirely sure how to say that. But he's on here doing lead guitars. And in terms of people attached to Mortiferum or Mortiferum, this actually has some pretty familiar names in terms of the production team. This was mixed by Andrew Oswald, who is also in Ashbore, which there are members of Ashbore and Triumvir Foul, but he also was the one that mixed the last two Mortiferum or Mortiferum albums. See, I'm going to keep flipping that around just to see which one sticks and which one's actually right. I might be screwing both up. And this was actually mastered by Dan Lowndes of Cruciamentum, which I'm also a big fan of that band too, and I believe they've actually worked with Dan Lowndes in the past. I think it was on the first one. So a lot of familiar faces, at least if you're in Triumvir Foul or in the Portland death metal, whole scene there. But honestly, going into this one, I really wasn't sure what to expect. I love their first two albums, but the Urine of Abomination EP I thought was very noisy and very chaotic, and that is definitely part of their sound. These guys play very caustic, cavernous, twisted, dark death metal. It's very sludgy. It sounds evil as fuck. But honestly, this one sounds possibly the cleanest out of all of them. Now that isn't saying much, because their sound is just, again, very dirty and very raw, but I think this one, with the better mix on it, the riffs really stand out, and this band is riffy as hell. But they're also really good at creating a very disgusting, almost dripping sort of atmosphere to them. The opening track, Presage, actually starts off with horror synths, and then you hear these horrifying vocals start coming in, sort of just bellowing something. It actually sounds like an incantation, and not the band Incantation, even though this band kind of does sound like the band Incantation, but this actually sounds like he's muttering some sort of spell. I didn't see any furniture floating or anything weird out of the corner of my eye or like a whisper in my ear or anything, but I was reasonably sure it was going to happen up until you start hearing this cool slow fade in of just some gnarly death metal, and then the song just explodes. Again, these guys, very chaotic. There's a lot of apocalyptic riffing. There's a lot of nasty death metal tremolos all over the place, but there's a lot of hooks too. And I was kind of surprised by that. Not as though their first two albums weren't, catchy in their own right. It's just that I think they were more focused on creating this caustic atmosphere. And this one, I think they found the right balance, because the atmosphere is still dank and just dreary and ugly and, I don't know, kind of just evil sounding in general. But this is packed to the brim with very distinct, awesome riffs. This opening track works as a sampler platter for pretty much everything that's going to be on the album, minus a few things. You get great tremolo riffs, some big chuggy breakdowns in there, some nasty apocalyptic riffing, again a la Incantation, and just this overall vibe of just evil. And that is definitely cemented by the vocals. In fact, I think the vocals add so much to the atmosphere on here, because they're just so twisted. Like, they're not your standard low growls that you would associate with, bands like Tumult and Incantation or even Immolation. They're a little bit mid-register, but they can go lower and can go higher, and there's enough reverb on them, and it just sounds chaotic and evil. Like, the way he enunciates things and says things and lets certain groans carry kind of has this Chris Reifert sort of effect from Autopsy. It's over the top, but this doesn't feel campy at all. This feels purposely evil. Like, it's supposed to sound darker than hell, and holy shit, it really sets the mood, even more so than the synths on here, which the horror synths are kind of used as like transitional bits, like towards the end of a song or in between tracks. But a lot of it comes down to these fucking twisted vocals on here, and I absolutely love them. Now again, there's a lot of comparisons here to be made to Incantation and even Mortiferum, especially since Max Bowman's on here supplying really just dreary, ugly, atonal, squawky, squealy leads. They're perfectly suited for this music. But there's also giant death doom moments, especially on Domini Befallen to Doom. The to Doom part is in parentheses, and believe me, it gets doomy. The song is riffy as hell from the get-go. There's a nice groovy opening to it. There's a great tremolo melody. I want to say they even harmonize it a little bit in there. And then it goes into straight death doom territory with like some single note chugs and just this nasty atmosphere, and of course those giant creepy vocals carrying over all of it. And Serpent's Gnash for War takes it even a notch higher, opening up faster than hell, chaotic blast beats, twisted fucking riffs. It's one of the most aggressive openings in terms of songs on here. And then it takes that hard Incantation style shift where it is blazing fast for a second and then shifts to the slowest, murkiest thing ever with longer, deliberate growls, except he squeezes in more groans. Like, they're not necessarily like guttural vocals, but they're like very dry groans, and it sounds fucking creepy, and they layer them very well, and it's just very ominous sounding, but holy shit, it's effective as hell, and that giant doomy shift was absolutely amazing in that song. But to even further break it up, you even get some like thrashier sections in songs like Flesh Diocese and Infected Virtue. These song titles are a lot of fun, but those songs, much shorter, much more abrasive. There's thrashier sections in them, mixed in with like just chaotic blast beats and fucking wild riffing. And I have to say, the drum work on here is impressive as hell. There are transitions left and right, and this guy is just keeping up with all of them. Lots of groovy sections, lots of really clever fills, and the intensity overall. This guy has so many different fucking gears on here, and he's just driving the fucking songs straight to hell, I assume. Honestly, going through this and listening to this and comparing it to their older stuff, I think this might be like their catchiest, maybe most accessible album. Now, that's not saying there's like pretty choruses or anything on here, and really nice, pleasant melodies. There's nothing pleasant about this, just in terms of like normal music. For death metal heads, oh, this is fucking wonderful. But I think this album feels more centered on riffs and more hooks on here. Like, it's still chaotic, it's still evil sounding as hell, it's still drenched in atmosphere, but the riffs are what drives the songs, and honestly, with this better mix, the riffs stand out even clearer. There isn't like any additional mud or excessive amounts of rawness on here. This has the appropriate amount of grit in it where it actually sounds, just dirty, but it sounds well mixed. And I think that has done a lot for this band. Because honestly, like, this is one of those bands I would say is almost like an intermediate step to bands that get a little bit crazier with their sound, like namely Portal. I'm still not the biggest fan of that band. I mean, I appreciate what they do on an artistic level, I think. I don't know, they kind of fucking freak me out when it comes down to their music. But this band definitely has a lot of that chaos and a lot of the dissonant riffs and, some of the atonal melodies in there. But this also grounds that sound with some more cohesive songwriting and more riffs that, aren't meant to just absolutely confuse the fuck out of you. Like, they have legit hooks and they're solid grooves, and, there's a lot of stuff to latch onto for as disgusting as this album is. And while this is very like, riff a minute, sort of transitions everywhere, varying speeds and tempos pretty much on every track, they wisely lay on sections for a while to let the riffs sink in. And I really like that about that, because when something is too chaotic, it just becomes kind of impossible to get a hold of in terms of like understanding it. At least it is for me. I can't speak for everyone, but when it comes down to like more technical music, like, I kind of need to sit down with it a little bit longer. This album will lay on a solid riff, even add like a twisted vocal passage with some weird effects, or even a dive bomb fucking loaded solo just to add that chaotic feel to it. It's the fact that they kind of stay grounded. They don't want to completely lose the listener, at least that's my impression of it, but it still remains this just absolutely nasty, dark beast of an album. And this has a tight runtime of under 40 minutes. It's a little bit over 36 minutes, and everything flows really well. All the tracks, kind of break it up a little bit. There are a couple that might bleed together a bit just because some of the riffs do get a bit similar, but overall they know how to break it up. And again, the abrupt transitions from like death doom to faster stuff, it keeps the album pretty fresh. And honestly, if we're as creepy and as fucking dark as this is, it's kind of fun. Like, there's like an over-the-topness I appreciate. I mean, some of these song titles: Slither Corruption, The Demise of the Three Serpents, Basamu Enthralled, which of course we're fans of anything Thrall related, Horned Creations. I mean, hell, look at that super legible logo. This band embraces all things over the top and evil, and just, I don't know, I feel like they have fun with it in terms of just writing these songs, in terms of making them chaotic but still catchy. Like, they found that perfect balance there, and it works on this album pretty much across the board. Like, the only issues I had with this is I felt like there was a lull in the synths, which is weird because I generally complain that synths are too much, but I kind of liked the synthy transitions between songs, and after a while, like, some of them kind of just ran together a little bit there. I mean, granted, this is death metal, this isn't like ambient synth music, so it should be about the brutality, it should be about the riffs, but I kind of like that aspect because it really separated the tracks. But outside of that, I fucking really like this album. This is absolutely nasty, and honestly, I think it's one of their most refined pieces yet. Granted, they only had 2 albums before this and an EP, but I think this shows like a really solid progression in their sound. So overall, I'm going to give this 4 stars. This is a fucking banger of an album. If you're a giant fan of bands like Tomb Mold and Incantation, Immolation, oh god, any just nasty, dirty sounding death metal act, holy shit, I think you're probably gonna like this. The vocals, I think, add so much here. They sound chaotic, they sound fucking evil as hell. And again, for as chaotic as this sounds, it's very catchy, which I really like. They found a sweet fucking balance, and that makes it infinitely more listenable for me. I already ordered this one. Turns out the CD version comes out on Invictus Records, which I believe is in Ireland, so I am going to be waiting a minute before that one gets here. But 3 tracks in, I knew I was going to order this, and then I did. I know, everyone's super surprised at that. But yeah, I strongly recommend checking this one out. This is an absolutely ferocious death metal release, and, well, we love that here, so check it out. So, if you enjoyed this review, give it a thumbs up, and if you are new to the channel, subscribe, because we do stuff like this all the time. We are also on Patreon. If you'd like to help us out, there will be a link down below. There will also be a link down there to thrallsmetal.com if you would like to get one of our kick-ass shirts. As for further news, Pantera ranking, trying to figure out a date. Denver Death Fest, I'm pretty much saying a lot of the same shit at the end. It is still on September 30th through October 2nd in Denver, Colorado, because, yeah, you figured it out. I think we're waiting for some sort of confirmation from someone, or like a sponsor or a band. I don't know, but we can't make an announcement yet. But believe me, when we know more, you will know more, because we will definitely make an announcement. And then I can actually say something different at the end of these videos. And of course, thank you all so much for liking, subscribing, commenting. I know the big thank you part of the video where I say tons of awkward stuff that just alludes to, yes, thank you. We love you guys. You guys are the reason why we keep going, because I don't know, I feel like we've done something, you know, on the scale of YouTube, very small, but on the scale of any sort of personal achievements and whatnot, huge. So I just want you to know it wouldn't be what it is without you guys. So once again, thank you all, and we will catch you later.